Gary Schmidt's Orbiting Jupiter will be in the general fiction section once Battle of the Books is done. It's nominated for the Iowa Teen Award. If you cannot find a print copy, there are electronic copies available in Mac and Via. One of our main characters is a boy named Jackson Hurd. He is a sixth grader, and he lives with his family in the state of Maine. The time frame is winter. Jackson and his parents live on a farm, and in addition to being dairy farmers, Jackson's parents have been known to be foster parents. They took some time off from foster parenting when Jackson was small, but they've decided that it's time to begin foster parenting again. And that's where our other main character comes in. This is Joseph Brooke, and he's had a pretty rough life up until this point, and he is going to be joining the Hurd family on their farm. Here's the scene where the caseworker drops Joseph off. On Friday, Mrs. Stroud brought Joseph home. He looked like a regular 8th grade kid at Easton Middle School. Black eyes, black hair, a little less than middle for height, a little less than middle for weight, sort of middle for everything else. He really could have been any other 8th grade kid at Easton Middle School, except for one thing. And he wouldn't look at you when he talked, if he talked. He didn't say a thing when he got out of Mrs. Stroud's car. He wouldn't let my mother hug him. He wouldn't shake my father's hand. And when I brought him up to our room, he threw his stuff on the top bunk, climbed up, and still didn't say anything. I got in the bunk below him and read some until my father called us for milking. In the big barn, Joseph and I tore up 3 bales and filled the bins. I told him, you have to fill the bin in the small barn for Quintus Sartorius first, because he's an old horse and doesn't like to wait. And then we went back to the cows in the tie-up to milk. My father said Joseph could watch, but after today, he would be helping. Joseph stood with his back against the wall. When the cows turned and looked at him, they didn't say a thing, not even Dahlia. They kept pulling on the hay and chewing, like they do. That means they thought he was okay. When my father got to Rosie, he asked Joseph if he would like to try milking her. Joseph shook his head. She's gentle. She'd let anyone milk her. Joseph didn't say anything. Still, after my father was done and he'd taken a couple of full buckets out to the cooler, Joseph went up behind Rosie, reached out, and rubbed the end of her back, right above her tail. He didn't know that Rosie loved anyone who rubbed her rump, so when she mooed and swayed her behind, Joseph took a couple of steps back. I said, "She's just telling you she's—" "I don't care," said Joseph, and he left the barn. The next morning, though, when the 3 of us went out to the big barn to milk, Joseph went to Rosie first, reached out and rubbed her rump again, and Rosie told Joseph she loved him. That was the first time I saw Joseph smile, sort of. There's a few things that you should know about Joseph. It's rumored he tried to kill a teacher. He has an abusive biological father. That's why he ended up in foster care. He is 13 years old. He has spent time in juvie due to trying to kill a teacher, so they say. And finally, Joseph is a father. And as the reader, you do learn very early on that the one thing that Joseph wants more than anything is to meet his daughter Jupiter. We have other books by Gary Schmidt in our library. if you read Orbiting Jupiter and would like to try something else by this author.